All right, let's dive right in. We're going to cover everything you absolutely need to know about networks and organizations for your upcoming exam. Let's get straight to the core concepts. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by defining what a network really is. Then we'll look at the difference between formal and informal structures. After that, we'll get into the two main ways you can analyze them, figure out why they're so incredibly important, and wrap up by seeing how they fit into the modern workplace. Every company has that official org chart, right? But well, it's only half the story. Just look at this. Underneath that tidy, formal structure, there's this hidden, informal network. And this is where the real work happens. Understanding that difference, that's fundamental. Okay, let's kick things off with section 1, defining the network. These are the core concepts you've got to know cold. So, at its most basic level, what is a network? It's just a set of actors connected by relations. Super simple definition, right? But as you're about to see, the real magic is in understanding who those actors are and what those connections actually mean. And for your exam, this is crucial. Actors are not just people. Nope. They can be individuals, sure, but also entire teams or even whole organizations. And the relations? Those are the connections between them. Things like trust, who goes to whom for advice, or which departments are actually collaborating. This leads us to a really important concept, multiplicity. Sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just when two people are connected in more than one way. So think about your boss. Yeah, they have formal authority over you. But what if you also see them as a trusted friend or mentor? That's a multiplex tie. And those kinds of relationships are way, way stronger. And that distinction between different kinds of relationships, it's the perfect lead into our next topic, formal versus informal structures. This is really all about the official story versus, well, what's actually happening. On one side, you have the formal network. This is how work is supposed to go down. It's all based on job titles, org charts, and the official rulebook. But then, you've got the informal network. And this is how work actually gets done. It's built on trust, advice, and real social connections. This is where the real information and influence flow. So that's great and all, but how do we actually map this stuff out and understand it? Well, there are two key ways to analyze networks, and you're going to need to know both. So you can analyze what we call complete networks. That's like getting a bird's eye view of the entire forest. Or you can zoom way, way in and look at ego networks, which is more like studying a single tree and all its connections to the plants and animals around it. So when we're looking at a complete network, that big picture, we're asking system-level questions. How many people are in it? How interconnected is everyone? Are there little subgroups or clusters? This is how you figure out if your engineering and marketing departments are actually talking to each other, or if they're just operating on two different planets. Okay, now let's zoom in to the ego network. Here, we're focused on one person's position in the whole web. This is what explains why some people just seem to have more influence. We can see who's really central, who's acting as a gatekeeper, connecting different groups, and maybe who's an isolate, kind of left out on their own. And that position, that is the source of their social capital. And that brings us to a term you absolutely have to know for the exam, social capital. Look, this isn't about being popular. It's the real, tangible value you get from your network position. It means you get access to better information, more support, and way more opportunities. So why does any of this matter? Simple. Networks are absolutely crucial. They perform 5 functions that are just essential for any organization to work. Okay, so networks are basically the plumbing of an organization. They're the channels for everything important. They decide who gets information and how fast. They create influence that has nothing to do with a job title. They give people access to expertise and resources. They amplify power. And crucially, they build the trust you need to get things done when the official rules just aren't enough. They are quite literally the lifeblood of the organization. And that role as the lifeblood is more critical now than it has ever been. So for our final section, let's look at networks in modern work. Just think about how we all work today. Things are more decentralized, right? We've got hybrid and remote work all over the place. In this new world, the old formal structures just don't mean as much. We live in a knowledge economy, where success is all about sharing information across different teams. All of these trends make those informal networks not just important, but absolutely essential. And this often leads to something we call an ecosystem. And what's that? It's a huge network of actors that actually spans across multiple companies, even multiple industries. In an ecosystem like this, real value is created when you move information and resources between organizations, not just inside one.
All right, to make sure you've really got this stuff down cold, the full summary and practice tests are all available for you at gradeguru.nl.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of the absolute key takeaways. Remember, organizations are a pattern of both formal and informal relationships. You can analyze these networks at the big picture, complete level, think density and clusters, or at the individual ego level, focusing on centrality and social capital. Networks are crucial because they're the highways for information, power, and trust. And finally, all the trends in modern work are making these network skills more vital than ever before.